Ladies and gentlemen, now once again, a very warm welcome to today's Arton Capital webinar series on Portugal. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to today's speaker, Mr. Milos Stojanovic, the Managing Director and Vice President of Arton Capital, Mr. Jordi Vilanova, President of the RagGroup Portugal, as well as our Program Director, Ms. Carolina Figueiredo from Portugal. I would like to hand over these words now to Mr. Milos Stojanovic. Milos, thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl. Welcome, everyone. Happy to be here with such a large number of participants. Today, we're going to be discussing Portugal, but before we go to the main topic, I would like to tell you a little bit about our company. Arton Capital is a Canadian company out of Montreal, and we've been in this industry for over a decade. Our professionalism and expertise promoted us as one of the leaders in the industry. We're always committed to promote global citizenship, and over years we became a trusted partner to the government and trusted advisors to all of our clients. And proudly, I can say that we played a significant role in shaping up the industry the way it looks today. So if we look at this map, we see the various jurisdictions. Those are the jurisdictions that Arton Capital operates. Those are the programs that we promote. We're pretty much present everywhere and covering all the offerings of the industry. We have 12 government mandates, 17 offices around the world, and working with over 500 certified partners that trust our expertise. Contributing and making a social impact to countries where we operate was always very important to Arton Capital. And $4 billion attracted in the past 5 years shows a lot how much we contribute. Also, we helped almost 4,000 families and individuals acquire second citizenship and residency, which changed their lives and lives of their family significantly. We're very proud of that. In addition to our core business, Arton Capital is a founder of Passport Index. Passport Index today is a benchmark for ranking the strength of the passport. It is used with more than 55 million people around the globe. So what the Passport Index is, it's an online platform, accurate and alive, which shows you where you can go with your passport. It ranks passport. And the only way how you can define which passport is better ranked or stronger than another is the number of visa-free countries that, or visa on arrival countries that passport takes you. Passport Index is very useful for the people that travel a lot, and also it is very useful when somebody is interested in our core industry. So they can compare the passport that they have, and while they're choosing to which program they would apply, they can simply compare, add another passport and see what that additional value brings to this passport that they already have. Recently, we launched an app which is downloaded now by more than 22,000 people. We like to call it the world's passport in your pocket. Very easy to use, works offline, always accurate. So while you travel, you can always explore your options. In addition to Passport Index, Arton Capital has always been pioneer in the industry, and Global Citizen Forum was the first industry event, which over the years, it happened 7 years ago, over the years, transformed from the event into a movement which, and a community, which goal is to promote global citizenship and empower people to become global citizens. Now, Global Citizen Forum is a nonprofit organization. with the memberships possibility. Part of this community are global leaders, politicians, ultra-high net worth individuals, celebrities, influencers, philanthropists, you name it. We have Global Citizen magazine as well. It's also started as an industry publication, but now it's more of a lifestyle magazine that talks about industry, also promotes the destination, which are offering programs where we are involved. On a cover of our magazines were figures as Robert De Niro, Kofi Annan, Sir Richard Branson, Barack Obama, and many, many others. From recently, it is also available online. Now going back to the main topic that we discussed today in general, it's being a global citizen. There are few things in our life that we cannot decide and we cannot change. And one of them is the place where we were born. Place where we were born defines us a lot through our life. To some, it is advantage, and to some, it comes with a lot of limitations. Place where we were born defines usually the citizenship that we're going to have. And that citizenship defines the quality of the passport that we're going to carry. Our industry changes that. And it allows people to have a different potential and to choose when they will live and to do where they will do a business, to give them ability to choose which citizenship they want to have and to choose which passport they want to carry. So the question from the ones that are not related to our industry and don't understand really what we do, usually is, why would people want to change their passport? Why would they want to have another citizenship? What is that makes them decide and to think about it? There are various factors, but we'll try to outline a few main ones. Historically, the key driver for people to invest in a second citizenship or residency was to gain more access and mobility. Especially nowadays, people want to travel. People need to travel. People want to do business abroad. People don't want to have limitations. They don't want to wait in the embassy, being rejected on the visa. This demand increases more and more as we are becoming more global. Health and education, retirement and taxation, quality of life, security and plan B. And recently we saw pandemic. They're also some of the main reasons why people go for second citizenship. Some people want to have access to a better health system. Some want to send their kids to better schools. Some people want to retire or change the quality or better quality of life. And some people want to pay less taxes. With the today world is full of uncertainty. We see wars every day starting, economic crisis, political instabilities. High net worth individuals like to have a plan B. A little passport that is there just in case something happens in the places where they live and where they were given citizenship by birth. And we are all witness in the last months how pandemic can change our lives. Even during pandemic, people were allowed to go back to the countries where they're citizens. At the beginning, it seems like the passports don't matter. But now we see that actually it does. So when you combine all these reasons and many more that we're not talking about them today, we see that around us, the demand for a second citizenship will just grow as our demands and needs are growing. We have been experiencing that every year the new program is pretty much coming out, and we use these webinars to promote as much as we can all the jurisdictions. So previously we spoke about Montenegro, then we shifted and traveled to Caribbean islands, Antigua and Barbuda and St. Lucia, and today we are in Portugal, in one of the most charming European countries. We have with us Carolina Figueiredo, which is a program director of Portugal. She's Portuguese. There's nobody better that can tell us about Portuguese program. And sorry, just not to forget, please, we are welcoming you to ask all the questions in the box below. You will see Q&A. Please, we'll try to accommodate and answer all your questions during our session. Welcome, Carolina, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Milos. Thank you very much. Allow me to start by addressing and by thanking our audience, our vast and esteemed audience, for being here virtually with us today to hear about Portugal as a country, as a destination of immigration by investment, and to hear our special guest, Jordi Vilanova, who is joining us on the exclusive pre-launching of a new and very much exciting €280,000 project in Portugal today. So next, I could be considered very much suspicious to say what I will say next. Why Portugal? After all, I am a national of this country, as you well said. I run the Golden Visa program representing Arton, as you've also mentioned. But it's not my opinion, it's a fact. It's objectively visible and reflected on the number of articles published all over the international media, on the number of awards collected. Portugal has definitely been increasingly under the spotlights worldwide, attracting more and more attention, not only from pure investors, as from tourists, and even from those who, from a distance, even from those who have never been to the country, finding Portugal the perfect place to secure their plan B for retirement, or their plan A for their families to move to. And this is very much thanks to, and now I do allow myself to give my personal input and perspective here, to the human component that characterizes the country. The nature of the population, its calm and welcoming attitude, along with the stability, the political stability that we enjoy in the country, make Portugal the third safest country in the whole world. And the more desirable for expats to settle in. Again, not said by me, it's on the screen. So for foreigners to have a residency on. By applying for a golden visa, you are able to include under your application your spouse or your partner, your children who prove to be unmarried, studying and financially dependent on you, as well as your parents, provided that they also depend on you. And the best thing about it is that having residency in Portugal doesn't only entitle you and your family to enjoy what the country itself has to offer you by living there naturally without any restrictions, but it also opens you the borders of the 26 countries that make part of the Schengen zone, to where you will be able to travel visa-free. After 5 years of holding a temporary residence permit, which is the formal definition of a golden visa, after all, you are able to then submit your application for either permanent residency or citizenship. And I can tell you that the Portuguese passport can take you to brand new edges. Milos, please. It's one of the most powerful in the world, as you can see, ranking on a privileged 4th position on our passport index that Milos just introduced as a tool a while ago, and allowing its holders to travel visa-free to the full 169 countries that you see highlighted in green on the map, besides allowing naturally its holders to really live and work, to really move out to any of the remaining European Union countries. Okay. So qualifications, what do you need to do in order to access the program? The so-called Portuguese Golden Visa was enacted in late 2012, and by then the options of investment were quite reduced compared to what they are nowadays. Nowadays there is a wide variety of options, being the ones in real estate the most popular ones. An investment of at least €500,000 can be made on any property of any kind, 350,000 euros can be invested on properties that qualify for refurbishment, or 280,000 if this last investment is executed on a particular area, on particular areas of the country that qualify for a 20% reduction on the amount. It's one of the lowest in Europe for acquisition of residency, and the project we will be announcing later on does fit this criteria, so just a reminder to stay tuned. Obviously, investment on one of the qualified options is the main criteria. Besides that, the requirements are that the funds are always transferred to the applicant's account in Portugal from a third country, that the applicant holds no criminal record, pays all the taxes and fees involved on the transactions, naturally, and that the applicants go to Portugal at least once during the whole process. That will be for collection of biometrics, for which a valid Schengen visa will be required, unless the applicant, of course, has a passport that allows entry visa-free in Portugal already. The golden visa is structured in a sequence of years. It's 1 + 2 + 2. So it's initially granted for a period of 1 year, after which it will be renewed for 2 years, as you can see on the graphic below. So after, it's initially granted for the 1 year that you see. In order to renew it for the subsequent period of 2 years, the applicants just need to show that they've stayed in the country on the first year for 7 days, and the permit will then be renewed for another 2 years, for which the applicants will need to show that they've stayed in Portugal, in the country itself, for 14 days at least. And thereon, on the second period of 2 years, the same will need to be proven if the permit is to be renewed afterwards. The 7 or 14 days don't need to be spent consecutively in the country. This is at your discretion.
Thank you, Carolina. With the COVID-19, our industry changed a lot, and there's a lot of concerns from the investors. So can you tell us a little bit how did COVID-19 affect Portugal and the Portuguese program, and were there any changes, any obstacles that clients are facing with regards of a government operating, approvals being issued on time, bank transfers, any other procedural formalities? Are they being shifted in a negative or a positive way? How did the government respond? What can we expect?
Okay, that's the most frequently asked question of the last few weeks and months, understandably. So, Milos, on moments of crisis, we tend to read pretty much a little bit of everything in the news, on social media. The outbreak was absolutely no exception to this, and there were voices claiming that the program had been suspended until July. It was not. Not only it was not, as the Portuguese government has actually shown some creativity, if I may say, and speed by creating the hashtag #WeAreOn to assure that everything was working as usual, as much as possible, except naturally what involved physical appointments, which was in any case a consequence of the border closure on land. The physical appointments, it's important to mention, that are the very last step the applicants need to go through in order to submit their applications, were indeed suspended. But the government did it well, in my opinion. Instead of leaving a question mark in the air, giving margin for, speculations, doubts, uncertainty, the government did assume and anticipated in a very clear manner that all the appointments booked until March were suspended and would be rescheduled and blocked from the 1st of July by a chronological order, after which all the remaining appointments for all other applicants would then be open. During this period, I can also share, we have actually been witnessing an increased speed on processing of previous applications, which is explained by the availability of the staff of CEF being the entity that regulates immigration in Portugal, who is currently not occupied with a set physical appointments and naturally more dedicated to paperwork. So this is understandably expected to reflect positively, not only on the applications that are currently under assessments, as on all the future ones to launch, which are expected to benefit greatly from this reduction or inexistent backlog, and to enjoy increased speed as a starting point.
Okay, from this we can conclude that the Portuguese government reacted very well when it comes to responding on a COVID, and no major changes have been introduced, nothing negatively affecting applications, ongoing applications, and we should assure the future applicants that can easily engage and with no risk that their application will be stuck, delayed, or cancelled for any reason due to COVID-19.
Yes. Also the state of emergency, Milos, has meanwhile been lifted from the country. So as a result, some embassies and other services are progressively resuming operations. But the good thing is we are still nowadays enjoying some relaxation on the requirements. For example, in terms of banking, of attestations to open bank accounts. And last but not least, perhaps the most relevant outcome in consequence of the pandemic, although an unannounced one, would be that the previous changes of banning investments from Lisbon and Porto that were on the table might not be going ahead at a moment when the country understandably needs more investments than ever. Something we are yet to confirm, I highlight, but which is widely believed to be the case.
Thank you, Carolina. Now it would be very useful for our participants that we walk them step by step in timelines to show them exactly how long it would take them and what the steps are to apply and to get a permanent golden visa for Portugal.
Okay. So as the normal process would go, the investor would either visit the embassy to sign legal documents enabling the lawyers to proceed on their behalf, or go to Portugal directly to open a bank account in person. Now, with the current situation, we are able to explore other options that we will be happy to discuss on a case by case, depending on the place of residency and constraints of each applicant. Then once an investor has a tax ID number in the country, which is mandatory for opening a bank account, and the respective account is open, the funds for investment must be transferred by the investor. The title deed will then be executed by the lawyers, and simultaneously we will be advising on which documents together and attestations to follow. The submission of the application itself with the Immigration Services, with SEF, begins just afterwards and in two different phases. The first one right after investment, when the application is submitted online, and the physical one in Portugal. The submission of application online should take around 2 months to be reviewed, and then when the applicants are able to travel to Portugal, they should travel for around 2 business days for the necessary procedures, which include the collection of biometrics. After this trip to the country, all that the family will need to do is go back to their place of residency and waiting for the final approval for the final notification of approval, after which the cards will be duly delivered by Arton.
Thank you. Portugal is a real estate program, so Arton Capital is offering various choices when it comes to that. Can you please tell us a little bit more about the projects that Arton Capital is offering, and also after that we have Jordi with us who will walk us through this new project of 280 in details.
Yes, so in terms of costs, Milos, it's very important to understand that these do highly vary from project to project. So in order to give you an idea of fees and payments structures involved on the investment in Portugal, which are completely different from other jurisdictions that our audience might be familiar with. For instance, we are simulating amounts for investment on different projects, on this case on 4 different ones, as you can see split on the screen. And also adjusted to different family structures. On top, you do have the amount that is mandatory to invest on the property. So starting on 280,000, which is the minimum, as we've seen. Then different projects naturally have different investment amounts involved. And what you see below, just below the property prices, the amount to invest on the property purchase, what you see are all the costs involved with the rest of the purchase. So what we would call, they do include legal fees, what we refer to as processing fees, which would typically be, in case of Portugal, all the taxes, services and investment related charges implied on a property purchase, and government fees. It's worth to clarify here that only government fees are always the same, regardless of the project you invest on. The rest is not, and does highly vary according to the project, and even to the within the same project to the unit, when this is applicable, that is chosen by the applicant. The costs that you saw involved on the previous slides do reflect the investment on the projects you are now seeing displayed on the screen. Santa Catarina and Baixa Gardens are residential ones, apartment units for refurbishment, and Lapa Hotel and Rocio Sombras Hotel are touristic developments, hotels for investment in co-ownership that do offer buyback. The latter, which is located in an enchanting city called Évora, which I personally really like, is our highlight for today's session. It's an exclusive pre-launching of the project for Arton, for which we are delighted to count with the presence of Jordi Vilanova, president of Referência Arrojada Group in Portugal, to present this project that, Jordi, if you may confess, was developed very much thanks to our insistence on the demand for this kind of product.
Yeah, we cannot hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, now we do.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you very much. Yeah, can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so first of all, good morning, America, good afternoon, Europe, Africa and the Middle East, and good evening, Asia. Thank you, Arton, for putting this webinar together, and very special thanks to Carolina for her passionate presentation on Portugal and very precise presentation on the Golden Visa. So on my side, I represent the RagGroup. The RagGroup is part of the Merck group of companies which were founded in 1989 in Canada. We are a Montreal, Canadian-based company, and for the past over 30 years, we have developed over 38 projects in North America for investors looking for residency and citizenship. And one feature in our journey for these projects has been that we've been always offering in most of our projects buyback. In 2016, we came to Portugal, and the screen you see behind is where I'm sitting right now outside my office. Yes, I am sitting in Porto to overseeing the 9 projects, the 9 developments that we have at this stage. When we came, we were the first ones in Portugal to do 2 things. The first thing, we were the first ones to invest in the Golden Visa developments under the 350,000 euro category, the rehabilitation category. And we were also the first ones to offer a guaranteed buyback. Today, as I said, we have 9 projects under development, and I want to focus on the last one that we're launching today. I'll also later mention our previous one. So, as Carolina said, why Evora? Well, Evora is a UNESCO protected site. That's already very important. The second thing is that Evora is the best example, if not the only, after the earthquake in Lisbon many years ago, of the golden age of the Middle Ages in Portugal. And third, last but not least, is where the queens and kings used to sit. So that's in itself a very strong reason why we're having this project in Evora. And in terms of the project, please, next one. In terms of the project, what's very important for this Hilton Garden Inn, so why we have ourselves and Hilton committed to a project like this for an investment of 280,000 euros. It's going to be a hotel with 140 rooms. The project will have 75 investors. We plan to start construction next quarter. Actually, we have all the permitting, both for the rehabilitation as well as for the hotel. We're just working on the interior design, and we plan to open the hotel in summer 2022. As I said, this is one of the projects that we have with a guaranteed buyback. Next, please, Milos. So, again, why RagGroup and Hilton are committed to this business opportunity? There are three reasons why we are committed to this business opportunity. Number one, because of the infrastructure. So Evora is only a bit more than 1 hour away from the Lisbon airport, and it's a bit more of 1 hour away of the Spanish border. Infrastructure, as you know, and location are key in the hotel business. The second reason is Evora. We know that both in Portugal and in Spain, it's a great location for business conventions, for small business conventions. So that would be also a way to have clients all year around. And third, as I mentioned at the beginning, the tourist attraction, a UNESCO protected site, is always a big appeal. So again, that's why we will have the Hilton brand, and that's why we, as a developers, we are committed to this project in Evora. And let me share with you our project in Porto, a 350,000 euro investment in a hotel, Marriott Renaissance Convention Center. So there are two things which are unique about this project. In addition to the fact that it's also a buyback, and in addition to the fact that it has a 3% yearly return. The two things that are unique about this project is that this project is located in the last big piece of land in the center of Porto. And the second thing that makes this unique is that this will become the largest hotel convention center in Porto. Unfortunately, Porto is very attractive for many people, including business travelers. But the infrastructure, the convention center infrastructure is limited. So we have full support from the City Hall for a project like this that will attract not only the tourist travelers, but also we will have year-round business visitors to our property. So this is the property that we have all the permitting. We're just finalizing the interior design. We start construction very soon, and we plan to open in summer 2022. Again, this is a commitment from our development group as well as from Marriott, who will be providing the flag.
Jordi, I have a question. Traditionally, the investors go for Lisbon or Porto. Now we have more developments offered outside of these two major cities. Do you think that in the future the swing will be towards those developments who are also the threshold is 280, which makes a difference when the investor is deciding where to purchase? So what do you think? What kind of buyers we're looking at now in the future for Portugal, for Porto and Lisbon, and what kind of investors we're looking when it's elsewhere in a different smaller city that are unfortunately unknown to an investor, especially that are coming from Middle East or Asia or faraway places?
Milos, thank you for the question. Actually, when we looked at Portugal and how the development would go, there is a very interesting analysis which is done by the World Tourist Organization that has predicted that countries like Spain and Portugal will follow the same trend as other European countries like Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, where you have second cities. Like in the case of Spain, you might have Seville, you can have Valencia. So Portugal, there is a forecast, there's a consensus that there will be a development also in the secondary cities like Évora, which means that places like Porto and Lisbon will keep being very interesting because, of course, the infrastructure, the airport infrastructure in Porto, hopefully the new airport also in Lisbon, will keep attracting people from all over the world. But what's also true is that the local infrastructure, the roads and the trains will allow these secondary cities to revive the same way that in the past, historically, places like Évora was a center for, in the Middle Ages and the 18th century, even up till the beginning of the 19th century.
Thank you very much. Carolina spoke about possibility of changing the law and banning properties in Lisbon and Porto to be sold through a golden visa scheme. Do you think that will happen? And if so, when do you think that they would possibly initiate the process of changing the law? Because I'm sure as a developer, you're watching closely all these changes that will affect you, of course.
So we're very close to the stakeholders in this country, very close to the government, very close to the political parties. And there are two things that are very important that just happened in the past 3 weeks. Number one, the Association of Business CEOs and Business Owners had a meeting with the government where they clearly stated the importance of the foreign investment going forward after the COVID-19 period. So that has been a very important assessment by the business community in their meetings with the government and the feedback that they have had from the government. The second thing that is also very relevant is that we should not forget that in 2012, the European Troika helped the Portuguese government to recover from the economy. And the golden visa was actually created at that time. So again, there is from the government a special interest because it has been proven that at that time, foreign investment, not only in the form of golden visa, but in all kinds of forms, was a very successful element to overcome economic difficulties. So today we have informal feedback from the government that they will not change the regulations as initially planned, and the program will stay as it is for at least a couple of years. As Carolina said, there's no formal announcement on that, but yes, we have enough information, even from the media, printed in the media and in social media, that moves into this direction.
Thank you, Jordi. Before we move on with the new another project, We have questions flying in, and one of the questions is if you can repeat what is a ROI and a buyback for a new project that we did the pre-launching today.
So the buyback is for the same amount, 280,000 euros, and the buyback happens when you have the citizenship or the permanent residency. In these projects, like we have in North America, because of the limited amount of investment as opposed to the 350,000 euros, there is no return. It's just a committed, guaranteed buyback when they get citizenship or permanent residency.
And a return on investment during the time he holds investment?
So as I said, as we have in other programs like EB5, there is no return on investment during the time that you have invested there. But the important thing, and that's, people say, well, but why don't you have a return on investment? And the answer is very simple. We are protecting our investors' investment. And our main objective is to return the money, is to return the investment. Our investors are investors who are looking for a golden visa and eventually a permanent residency and citizenship. That's why our first and main commitment is to get them the golden visa and to get them back the money. This is the design of our project.
Fair enough, fair enough. And a company with a track record and credibility as yours definitely gives a confidence to every investor. Carolina, we're moving back to you. Santa Catarina.
Yes, before that, thank you, Jordi, for your presentation. I must say we haven't even launched this two-lady project in Evro official yet, and we were already receiving inquiries, requests, first registration, so I can definitely anticipate its a success. Yes, so Milos, continuing for Santa Catarina, I take the chance to go through briefly residential alternatives for those who would be interested in owning their own assets instead, starting by Santa Catarina Place. These are absolutely lovely and classy apartment units with a unique design located on the very heart of the city center in Porto, right next to a famous street that gives the name to the project, Santa Catarina. Both Santa Catarina and Baixa Gardens, Milos, the next slide, offer individual apartment units for refurbishment in strategic locations and on the very city center of the city. Baixa Gardens does also enjoy a very interesting location, a calmer one when compared to Santa Catarina, but still strategic, just across the University of Law in Porto. Being different units, we have different prices. The units range from studios to bedrooms. The current ones are available for just over 370,000 euros, and both options do offer a guaranteed return for those who wish to lease it instead of using it for residential purposes.
Thank you very much, Carolina. To summarize, investment starting from 280,000 euros, investment in the real estate. We saw some of the projects being offered today, and in 9 months, the applicant can have a Portugal golden visa, which can be transferred into a citizenship after 6 years. I will now give opportunity to all the participants on the webinar to write us a question we will be answering. Also, if you have any additional information about, any additional inquiries about Portugal or any other program that we are offering, you can write us on info@artoncapital.com or on a WhatsApp number below, and please follow us on all social media. Carl, are you with us?
Yes, Milos, thank you.
Yeah, we can start with the Q&A.
Yeah, thank you very much for everyone for this very informative session. I see a lot of questions are coming in, so we'll be going right to it. I have received a very interesting question from Mazen. It's regarding the residence application. Is the residency application affected in any way by the construction progress of the projects, or will be the application process as soon as the investment is made, irrespectively of the project progress?
It won't be affected. As long as the investment is executed, the application is processed. Jordi, do you want to add anything else?
Yes, those are two separate things. As Carolina said, once your investment is done, your application is submitted. And then at renewal, so as Carolina said, you have a renewal on year number 1, and a renewal on year number 3, and eventually before your citizenship on year number 5. So the only requirement for these renewals is to show with the certificate of the registry that you still have the investment there. So no questions asked about how the construction is or how is the project going. It's just the proof that you have made the investment, and that's what will take you through citizenship.
Thank you very much. And just to come back to this part also, maybe to add another question if somebody was concerned. The funds, are they held in an escrow account?
Sorry,
yes.
again.
Sorry. Sorry, the question I received was regarding the funds, if the funds are being held in an escrow account itself.
So I can speak for our case. No, the funds, they are not held in an escrow account. However, there is a bank monitoring of the use of funds. So the funds that are dedicated or have to be dedicated to the refurbishment, they are monitored by the bank, and we have a statement by an international reputable firm that certifies that those funds are used for the construction or the rehabilitation.
This is the most common case in Portugal for widely used for projects. So it's a current account, a normal deposit account that is used. What happens is that the POAs state very clearly, well defined, to where the funds can be transferred. They can only be transferred to one single account. The lawyers who have been granted power of attorney cannot do just whatever they would like to in terms of transactions at the bank. So this is ultimately what protects the investors.
Thank you very much. Carolina? Yes.
I have a question for Carolina and Jordi. What about Iranians? We know that today most of the programs are closed for Iranian citizens and they cannot apply. So Portugal has been one of the few options that is left on the table. Is it still on? Do we expect any changes?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Iranians are welcomed in Portugal. Of course, like in any other countries, the bank accounts, so most of the banks will accept the opening of the bank accounts. If some banks are owned by US investors or funds, that makes it a bit more difficult, but by no means there is any difference today between Iranians or other applicants. And this has been our experience all along.
Exactly, Milos. There are not only for Iranians, there are absolutely no restrictions on any nationality imposed by the legislation in Portugal, by the program at all.
Okay, that is very good. We have a lot of people that have been making inquiries about this particular issue.
I would also like to have one more question quickly answered regarding the residency and the status. I have received a question from Hamid, who is asking, for the first 5 years of residence with temporary status, does the applicant qualify for public health or school or other social assistances?
Yes, it does. However, if the applicant does reside in Portugal for the first 5 years, it is required to have health insurance, private health insurance in any case. Education is, the applicants are automatically entitled to free education in public schools until school is compulsory, and this includes 12 years of mandatory schooling. So after that, there are universities, public universities. These are not for free anymore, not even for nationals, but the tuition fees are just as minimal as 1,000 euros per year. So it's a symbolic cost.
I have a question, Jordi, for Jordi. Portugal is probably #1 or #2 program in the world when it comes to number of applications per year, if I'm correct. Golden Visa affected the real estate market significantly, and the prices of real estate went up very, very high. And there is more and more objections from Portuguese people that right now they're no longer able to afford a nice house in Portugal because the prices are gone up. Do you, playing an important role in this Golden Visa program and being a big developer in Portugal, do you think that the prices of real estate in Portugal will continue to rise? Will stay where they are, or it can happen that they just drop and the whole market collapses?
Milos, I think that's a very important question, and maybe Carolina will also like to comment. But there are three things that are very important in this analysis. Number one, there was a misinformation about the impact of Golden Visa into the potential real estate bubble. Where did the misinformation come from? Last year in Portugal, there were 1,700 Golden Visas approved. However, there were more than 10,000 new residents coming from other European countries to stay in Portugal. So almost 10 times more than the Golden Visa applications. That's number one. Number two, when we talk about locations, yes, in Lisbon, there was a certain effect, not that much from the Golden Visa, but what we call from the non-habitual residents, mainly coming from France, Belgium, Spain, UK, and North America. And third, and very important, if you look at the projects that we're presenting now, they're all projects for refurbishment. We had a specific support from the municipalities to continue investing into refurbishment projects because that was one of the few ways the cities could keep up with the refurbishment. So the answer to your question, in our perspective, is not only the Golden Visa has very limited impact on the rise of the real estate, but actually the way the program it is now is benefiting the Portuguese society and the Portuguese economy by investing more heavily into refurbishment than the Portuguese government has ever done.
Jordi, we know that American has a successful history in US. You told us a little bit about it. You have a very good track record in Portugal. But unfortunately, there's a lot of cases where the investors were gone with the wrong developer. And unfortunately, things went the way that they shouldn't. So there's a lot of concerns from the investor side. Where are they investing? Will the project start? Will it finish? Is there any advice you can give to potential investors? How to look for the right development, for the right developer? What is it that they should be cautious about when they're looking for a Portuguese golden visa, which includes purchasing in a property as one of the requirements?
I think in our experience, there are three elements that are important when an investor wants to do a due diligence and wants to see what are the different risk factors when investing into a project. The first one is the track record. And of course, like in any real estate market, there are a lot of newcomers, and it's sometimes difficult to find people who with a long track record like we have. So that would be the criteria number one. Look at the track record. Number two, look at the concept of buyback or returns. Like in our case, I mentioned we are offering a guaranteed buyback. So why are we able to offer a guaranteed buyback? Because we are pretty sure that when the day comes that they get the citizenship or their permanent residency, the business model works. And this is related to the third point. The first thing an investor normally asks is, show me the business plan and show me how, how sustainable is this business plan. In our case, for instance, for the hotels, for instance, for Evora, I can give you the example. How do we do the business plan? So the business plan in the hotel industry is pretty simple to do because it's all about room rates and occupancy. But how do you support your business plan? So we have expertise, and we have external expertise that before coming up with a business plan that we have for Evora, or we have done for the Hotel Marriott Renaissance in Porto, we check what the competition is. We check what Deloitte and PwC say about the expectations of the room rates and the occupancy rates in Portugal and in Porto in particular, or in the case of Evora, And that's when we go to the investor and say, look, that's the business plan we're committed to. And by the way, we've been doing that for many, many years. And that's why we think your risk assessment, when you make your decision, is very well protected.
We got another question. Somebody's asking investors for a Portugal golden visa. Do they have in their head, okay, I'm going to get a golden visa, which takes me to all the Schengen countries, and I'm fine with that, and I can live in Portugal? Or most of them are thinking, well, in 6 years, I'm going to become a European Union citizen. What do you think? Is it the first step enough for them to decide to go for a golden visa, or they're all looking for a future, what's going to happen after 6 years? And that's a key motive to become a citizen of European Union at the end.
So in our experience, and now we have more than 200 investors, it's very interesting because when we started, we could clearly see more than 95% of people that had the vision just to go for the golden visa and get the citizenship. But as they come here for biometrics, as they come here for renewals, we see a change in the trend. So what was, and still obviously, the majority of investors that are looking for a golden visa as a path to a European passport, and then make their decisions about where they want to live, whether in Portugal or in any other European country or in any other jurisdiction. Of course, this is still a majority, but especially after what Carolina said, and when meeting the Portuguese, when coming here, we can see the percentage of people that actually settle here. That's why there was a question about education, there was a question about healthcare. These kind of questions 4 years ago, they were very rare, and now they are very common.
Do you think that the government will ever introduce straight to citizenship program? Because this
the government will introduce, sorry, what?
Straight to citizenship program.
It's
as
difficult
a second
to.
option.
Yeah, it's. You mean retroactive citizenship?
No. What I'm saying, will the government of Portugal ever consider introducing a new additional straight to citizenship program? So that you invest in a real estate or a higher amount or a donation and just have a golden visa and straight to the citizenship. Like in Malta, you have a residency program and then you have a citizenship program.
I don't think so. Why don't I think so? Because one of the good things about Portugal is the political system. And as opposed to other European countries, that the governments, they change from one color to the other, and then they have a program, and then the government changes and the program changes. The good thing about Portugal is that it's a very stable coalition. The program was created actually by one political party that is today in the opposition. However, today the government is a coalition of three different parties, and when it comes to talking to this kind of features of golden visa, there is a consensus that the status quo that they have now in terms of balancing getting a residency with the investment, it's the way to go. And so that by the same token that the legal security of the program staying and no having hiccups and getting into citizenship as the government has promised in a country like Portugal is very safe. By the same token, we do not expect any major changes, whether it's direct citizenship or any type of radical changes in the program.
Many of our partner and the clients also, sorry from jumping from one topic to another, but the questions are coming in. Are you offering any financing option for the real estate? Is that something that you would consider?
It's not about our approach, is about the requirements of the program. The program clearly states that for the amounts that we have been talking about, whether it's the 280 or the 350,000 threshold, there cannot be any encumbrances. There cannot be any pledges or any financing. Now, above that, yes, there can be financing. So as far as the amounts we're talking about, which is the 280,000 and the 350,000 projects, no, we are not planning any financing due to the restrictions or the limitations of the program.
All right, thank you very much, Jordi. We have a question for Carolina. Is it still required, despite the COVID, that all the applicants have to spend 7 days in the first year or 14 days in the next 2 years in Portugal? Because nowadays it is simply not possible. What's going to happen to people that had that requirement for this year, for example, and they are not able to fulfill it? Will the government understand that and take this into consideration?
Is taking a step by step. So for now, the applicants who need to fulfill these requirements until a certain date have everything frozen. Naturally, the situation is understandable. For the future ones, we will have to accompany the developments. Everything will be dealt on a reasonable way, for sure.
Okay, and I have another last question for you, Carolina. Are EU citizens allowed to invest under the program?
Unfortunately not. The program is not open for existent EU citizens, it's for non-EU citizens.
Wait. Wait till Brexit. Wait till Brexit.
By then they will not be European Union citizens, so...
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for so many questions we have received, which we are unfortunately not able to cover all at this moment. However, we will be getting back to you. Now, I would still like to bring up to attention that we have our president and founder of Arton Capital, Arton, with us, who also would like to make a special announcement. So without further delay, Armand, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Carl, and I want to thank Jordi, Milos, and Carolina for their amazing presentation and personal input and passion about Portugal. I want to conclude with a few remarks in terms of the points and some of the questions that were asked during the presentations. Again, I'm extremely proud to say that we had nearly 400 participants and more than 180 questions. So you understand that we'll be answering a lot of them one by one in the following hours and the next 24 hours individually. However, again, to underline why Jordi is part of this presentation, part of this team, is very important to go back to basic and to history, the fact that we've been working with Jordi's team in Canada, in the United States, and now in Portugal. So our trust in selecting partners has always been a very valuable added benefit that a lot of our consultants and agents have appreciated. So the vetting and the due diligence that we have done on the projects that RAG and previously RagGroup have done and delivered under the EB5 program goes back more than 15 years. And we have visited every single project of RAG in Portugal, and we have seen the developments that they have done. So we're, again, extremely proud to say that we have partnered for this exclusive offering under these terms. Another aspect about how the Portuguese government and how the European Commission are assessing the changes. Of course, nobody knows literally what's going to happen in the next 30 days from perspective of mobility and COVID, and when the CIS applications and appointments can happen. But from a macro perspective, what I can tell you, for the last 2 years, speaking with a lot of EU representatives in Brussels and being part of meetings with the European Commission, that when the focus about the negative focus about this industry and about these programs have been into some countries more like Malta, Portugal was never really being on the top of the line of the objections of the European Commission. Why? Because I think, first of all, as we mentioned, there was never politically internal disagreements. The program was started with one party, even though there's been 3 elections since the program has started. The program has always been maintained, even made better, regardless which party is in power. And this is the kind of stability as well that brings the international recognition to a lot of investors that will trust these kind of programs more than when you have oppositions, in political parties always threatening that if they come to power, they will change the program or they will revoke the passports. So the stability, the political stability, and the economic performance of what really this program has done for Portugal has been such that no internal or external really objection have been placed towards this program. So I believe that from perspective of how the demand will change for post-COVID residency and citizenship, Portugal again I believe will be one of these destinations that a lot of people from the Middle East and Asia like very much to really physically relocate. It is a livable country that has, again, gone through the COVID experience in a quite well managed way from government and medical perspective. So this is all kinds of elements that clients will start looking in the future when selecting a country where they would invest and where they want to be a resident or a future citizen. The reputation of the country, the way that it's been attacked or not attacked by the European Commission, these kind of questions are what a lot of investors, I think, will be asking in the future. And that's why we believe Portugal has a special place in the offerings for this kind of products. Again, I believe that with the different opportunities between buybacks or some projects that offer individual keys or individual apartments, some offer returns, some offer buybacks. There is a different demand and different kind of investors looking for different things. So for us, it's always been important to offer to our investors and their bankers and lawyers and advisors more choices so they can select what is the best for each and one of you. There is not one single product that can be good for everybody. But again, the value and the confidence we have in the buybacks from RAG as a developer is based on historic performance and calculations that we have monitored. We have looked at the audit numbers, and we're very comfortable to stand behind. And again, I want to finish by thanking everybody and announcing a little surprise for those who are still around 300 people on the call, that we're announcing with Small World. For those that remember the days before Facebook existed, Small World was a very select network by invitation only, which have survived throughout all the social media networks. It even went public on the Swiss Stock Exchange. And it offers a virtual community, but more specifically, it is really a gathering of single-minded global citizens around the world that are part of Small World, share ideas about the future of global citizenship, about travel, about all the benefits that comes with this lifestyle, challenges and opportunity. There's a lot of philanthropic topics that are discussed. And of course, there is the 3-4 key gatherings that Small World does around the world, from Saint-Tropez to Gstaad in Switzerland, Dubai, and they always participate at our Global Citizen Forum. So for all those people who were participants at the webinar, we will send in the following days a 1-year complimentary membership, which normally costs 100 francs Swiss per year. And while it is a community based on travel and mobility, and we believe that the next 6 or 12 months, maybe we might be limited to travel physically, but as all of you know, part of the fun about a trip is actually when you plan it. So let's use the next months, and we give you that tool for you to really plan the places, the countries, the cities, and the way to travel with Small World that comes with a lot of benefits in terms of air miles, car rental benefits, gold status in a lot of different tier memberships. So you can explore in the next 12 months, prepare your plan, because again, we're very positive that with the latest development and some positive vaccine developments in the States, it is a question of months, 12 to 18 months before we believe the world reopens. So let's use that time to be ready. Let's as well be ready to apply for programs, because again, the question of where can you travel when the world opens will be a key element of differentiation. So use the next 12 to 18 months to get the right residence, the right citizenship, plan your dream places and holidays and mobility bucket list with Small World. And we're extremely happy to be part of your journey. We'll announce as well that next week, if we can have the slide about our next webinar, which is based in Cyprus. We'll be extremely honored to host Haris Georgiadis, who is the former Minister of Finance of Cyprus, This is a man that has gone really through the worst and the best in the Cyprus recent development, economic development of the country. The man who has defended the program at the beginning when it was set in 2013 and 14, and have really made a big turnaround from nearly a disaster, economic disaster in 13-14 into one of the fastest growing economy in Cyprus. And he will tell us about the role that the Citizenship by Investment program played in this magic turnaround of the Cyprus economy. And of course, this event will be hosted by our partner, Nikimu Ioannou, who will host about all the specific real estate opportunities that exist today in Cyprus for a Citizenship by Investment program in Europe. So again, thank you for your time, everybody. Thank you to my team for this beautiful presentation and straight to the point. And all your questions will be answered, dear participants. Thank you for your time, and goodbye from me. Stay safe.
Thank you, Armand. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.